The ice beneath Commander Nina Petrova's boots creaked with each careful step. Her suit's thermal readings showed Europa's surface temperature at a brutal negative 160 degrees Celsius, but that wasn't what made her pause. The emergency beacon's signal pulsed stronger now, its alien frequency unlike anything in human databases. "Base, are you still receiving?" Nina's voice carried across the vast distance between Jupiter's moon and the research station. The 3-second delay felt eternal. "Affirmative, Commander. Signal strength increasing. Whatever it is, you're getting closer." Dr. Patel's response crackled through her comms. "Just remember protocol. Maintain distance. Establish no contact. Observe and report." Nina finished, managing a smile despite her tension. "I know the first contact protocols, Raj. But if someone's in trouble out here..." She left the sentence unfinished, continuing her careful trek across Europa's icy surface. The light from distant Jupiter cast long shadows across the frozen landscape, creating an otherworldly twilight. Her helmet lights illuminated the path ahead, reflecting off ice crystals and casting rainbow refractions through the thin atmosphere. The beacon's signal led her to one of Europa's many ridges, where the ice had been forced upward by tectonic activity. But something was different here. Fresh fractures scarred the surface, and debris lay scattered across the pristine ice. Nina's heart raced as she approached, her suit's sensors working overtime to analyze the scene. "Base, I'm sending visual feed now. We've got impact damage. Definitely artificial structures." Her breath caught as her lights revealed more of the crash site. "It's a ship, Raj. Not one of ours." The vessel before her was unlike anything human engineers had conceived. Its hull seemed to be made of overlapping crystalline plates that shifted colors in her lights, creating an iridescent display. One side was clearly damaged, with a long gash revealing internal systems that pulsed with a faint blue light. "Commander, please maintain safe distance," and Dr. Patel's warning cut off as Nina's suit detected movement near the ship's damaged section. Something was alive in there. "Base, we have a survivor," Nina reported, already moving forward. "I'm going in." "Nina, wait. The protocols." "Someone needs help, Raj. We can discuss protocols later." Nina approached the ship carefully, her training warring with her instinct to rush forward. As she got closer, she could see the survivor more clearly through a breach in the hull. The alien was humanoid in basic shape, but that's where the similarities ended. Its body appeared to be composed of living crystal, semi-transparent in places with internal structures that glowed with the same blue light she'd seen in the ship's systems. The being was partially pinned under debris, its crystalline form cracked in several places. As Nina approached, the alien's surface rippled with patterns of light that she instinctively understood as distress. It turned what she assumed was its head toward her, revealing faceted structures that might have been eyes. "I'm here to help," Nina said softly, knowing her words wouldn't be understood, but hoping her tone would convey her intentions. She activated her suit's external speakers, broadcasting on multiple frequencies. The alien's light patterns shifted, becoming more regular. Nina began carefully clearing debris, using her suit's enhanced strength, while being mindful of both the alien's injured form and the ship's potentially dangerous systems. As she worked, she noticed the alien studying her with what seemed like intense curiosity despite its obvious pain. After several tense minutes, she managed to free the being. Its crystalline body was severely damaged, with several deep fractures that emitted erratic pulses of light. Nina knew nothing about the alien's biology, but those patterns couldn't be good signs. The alien attempted to move but collapsed, its light patterns flickering weakly. Nina made a decision that would either make history or end her career, possibly both. She activated her suit's emergency medical protocols. "Base, I'm bringing the survivor to the station. Have Medical Bay 3 prepped for unknown biology, and get everyone with xenobiology experience on call." "Commander, this is a direct violation of Raj," Nina interrupted, her voice firm. We can either make first contact by helping someone in need, or we can let them die while following protocols. Your choice. The silence stretched for several seconds before Dr. Paddle responded. Medical Bay 3 will be ready. God help us all if we're wrong about this. Nana carefully lifted the alien, surprised by how light it was despite its crystalline appearance. As she secured it for transport, the being's surface rippled with new patterns, slower, more deliberate. It raised one of its limbs, touching Nina's helmet with what appeared to be a crystalline appendage. In that moment, Nana felt a slight tingling sensation in her head, and somehow she knew the alien was trying to communicate. A single concept seemed to float into her mind: gratitude. You're welcome, she whispered, securing the last transport restraint. Now let's get you somewhere warm. As Nina began the careful journey back to the research station, she couldn't help but smile. First contact had always been humanity's dream, but no one had expected it to happen on Europa. And certainly not like this. She glanced down at her crystalline passenger, whose light patterns had stabilized somewhat, but remained worryingly dim. Hang in there, friend, she murmured. We got a lot to talk about once you're better. Behind them, the alien ship continued to pulse with its mysterious blue light, its secrets waiting to be discovered. But for Nina, the greatest discovery was already secure in her transport harness, proof that even across the vast distances of space, compassion could bridge the gap between worlds. The medical bay's stark white walls seemed to pulse in rhythm with the crystalline being's bioluminescent patterns. Nana watched through the observation window as Dr. Patel and his team worked to stabilize their unexpected guest. The alien's fractures had grown more pronounced during transport, dark fissures spreading through its translucent form like cracks in ice. Remarkable, Dr. Patel murmured, his dark eyes fixed on the readings flooding his holographic display. The crystalline structure isn't just an external feature, it's their entire biology. These energy patterns we're seeing, they're like neural impulses, but transmitted through crystal matrices instead of organic tissue. Nina pressed her hand against the window, remembering the strange mental touch she'd experienced during the rescue. Can you help them? We're trying something unprecedented here, Raj replied, adjusting several controls. But we've discovered their crystal structure responds to specific wavelengths of light. Watch this. He directed a precisely calibrated beam at one of the alien's smaller fractures. The surrounding crystal began to slowly reknit itself, guided by the light. The alien's own bioluminescence flickered in response, creating complex patterns that rippled across its surface. They're trying to communicate, Nina realized. She pulled up the station's linguistics eye on her tablet. Can we map these light patterns? Create some kind of translation matrix. Hours turned into days as they worked to establish communication. The alien, who eventually managed to convey that their name was Thexri, proved to be both resilient and remarkably adaptive. They learned to modulate their light patterns in ways that the station's sensors could better interpret, while Nina and her team developed more sophisticated translation algorithms. Your assistance, gratitude, came the first roughly translated message, the AI struggling to convert Thexri's complex light language into English. My ship. Others will come. Danger. Nana leaned forward, her fatigue forgotten. What kind of danger, Thexri? Who's coming? The translation took time, the AI working to interpret the intricate dance of light and color that flowed across Thexri's now healing form. The Shadeweavers. They hunt. They collect. They destroy. Must hide ship. Must conceal presence. Dr. Patel frowned at his monitors. Commander, the alien vessel's energy signature is increasing. If these Shadeweavers are really looking for it, then we need to hide it. Nina finished. She turned back to Thexri. Can you teach us how to power down your ship? Make it harder to detect. What followed was an intensive crash course in alien technology. Thexri's light patterns became more complex as they attempted to explain concepts that had no direct human equivalent. The crystalline being projected detailed technical schematics directly from their body, the light forming three-dimensional images in the air. Nina spent hours learning to interpret these diagrams, working with the station's engineering team to understand the principles behind Thexery's crystalline technology. The ship, they learned, was powered by something Thexery called resonance cores, living crystal matrices that channeled energy in ways that defied human physics. As they worked, Nina noticed something changing in their interactions with Thexery. The aliens' light patterns began incorporating elements of human body language, brightening like a smile when pleased, dimming like a frown when frustrated. In turn, Nina found herself increasingly able to interpret subtle variations in Thexery's bioluminescence without relying on the AI translator. "Your kind adapts quickly," Thexery observed one evening, their light patterns forming words with growing clarity. "Most species fear difference, reject contact. But you helped without hesitation." Nina smiled, watching the play of colors across Thexery's crystalline form. "That's what humans do at our best. We reach out, we help, we learn. Though I admit, some of my superiors aren't too happy about me breaking first contact protocols." Protocols. Thexery's surface rippled with what Nina had come to recognize as amusement. Life rarely follows protocols. Connection, understanding. These cannot be planned. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert from the station's long-range sensors. Dr. Patel rushed into the medical bay, his face grave. "Commander, we're detecting multiple objects entering the Jupiter system. They're energy signatures. They're similar to Thexery's ship, but different. Darker somehow." Thexery's entire form pulsed with alarm, their light patterns becoming sharp and erratic. "Shadeweavers. They track resonance trail. Must act quickly. Your world, your people, all at risk if they find us." Nina straightened, her mind already racing through options. "Then we won't let them find us. Raj, get the engineering team ready. Thexery, I need everything you can tell me about these shadeweavers, their capabilities, their weaknesses, everything." As Europa's eternal twilight deepened outside the station's windows, Nina knew they were running out of time. They had to find a way to hide both Thexery and their ship before the shadeweavers arrived, or first contact might become humanity's last contact. The station's warning systems blared to life as three dark shapes entered Europa's orbit. Through the observation dome, Nina watched as vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it took up positions around the moon. Their designs were similar to Thexery's ship, but where the crystalline being's vessels shimmered with internal light, these appeared to swallow illumination from their surroundings. "They're scanning the surface," Dr. Paddle reported, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. "Our shielding is holding for now, but these energy patterns, they're like nothing we've ever encountered." Thexery's form pulsed with urgent patterns. Shadeweavers use void crystal technology. They corrupt the natural resonance of living crystal, turn light into darkness. "Your shields will not hide us for long." Nina studied the tactical display, her mind racing. The research station was well hidden within one of Europa's ice ridges, but the alien ship still lay exposed on the surface. Even powered down, its crystalline structure would eventually be detected. "The subsurface ocean," she said suddenly. "Thexery, can your ship withstand deep water pressure?" The crystalline being's lights flickered in consideration. "Crystal structure adapts to pressure. But shadeweavers will detect movement if we try to move ship. Not if we give them something else to track." Nina turned to Dr. Patel. "Raj, remember those experimental resonance probes we were working on? The ones designed to study Europa's core?" Understanding dawned on his face. "They operate on similar frequencies to Thexery's technology. We could modify them to mimic the ship's signature, create multiple false targets, while we move the real ship into the ocean," Nina finished. She faced Thexery. "But we'll need your help to modify the probes quickly." What followed was a desperate race against time. While the shadeweavers methodically searched Europa's surface, Nina's team worked to adapt their scientific equipment into decoys. Thexery's knowledge proved invaluable. Their light-based technology blending surprisingly well with human engineering. Probes ready for deployment, Dr. Patel announced just as the station's sensors detected another scan sweep approaching. But Commander, moving the ship, the ice is too thick here. We'd need hours to cut through safely. Nina smiled grimly. Then we don't cut. Thexri, you said your ship's crystal structure adapts to pressure. Can it handle impact? The alien's lights pulsed with what Nina had learned to recognize as surprise, followed by understanding. You suggest we break through. Dangerous, but possible with correct resonance frequency. They put their plan into motion as the Shadeweaver ships began their next orbital pass. First, they launched the modified probes, scattering them across Europa's surface. The effect was immediate. The dark ships altered course, splitting up to investigate the sudden proliferation of crystalline signatures. With the Shadeweavers distracted, Nina led a team to Thexri's ship, the crystalline being interfaced directly with their vessel's systems, their bioluminescence synchronizing with the ship's pulsing energy patterns. The entire structure began to vibrate at a specific frequency. Now, Nina ordered, the ship's systems surged to life, its crystalline hull glowing brilliant blue. It rose slightly off the ice, then drove downward with tremendous force. The impact was devastating, the focused resonance shattering Europa's thick ice sheet like glass. Water erupted from the breach as the ship plunged into the subsurface ocean. Nana's team barely made it clear in time, their suits' magnetic clamps straining to keep them anchored as the surface collapsed around them. Through their comlinks, they heard Dr. Patel's urgent voice. Shadeweaver vessels are changing course. They're converging on your position. Get back to the station, Nina commanded her team. I'm going after the ship. Before anyone could protest, she released her magnetic clamps and dove into the turbulent water. The descent into Europa's ocean was like entering an alien world within an alien world. Her suit's lights revealed massive ice structures hanging from the ceiling like inverted mountains. The water was surprisingly clear, treated by the station's vast filtration systems to prevent contamination of the moon's pristine environment. She spotted Thexri's ship gliding deeper, its crystalline structure already adapting to the aquatic environment. The hull had become more streamlined, the crystal plates shifting and flowing like liquid glass. Nina's suit propulsion struggled to keep pace as they descended past the range of surface sensors. Finally, the ship came to rest in a vast underwater cavern. Nina watched in amazement as crystal formations grew from the vessel's hull, anchoring it to the ice walls and gradually changing color to match their surroundings. Within minutes, the ship was almost invisible, appearing as just another feature of Europa's submerged landscape. Thexri emerged from an airlock that formed spontaneously in the hull, their crystalline form perfectly adapted to the intense pressure. Their light patterns, visible even through the dark water, formed words in Nina's mind. The resonance of water disrupts their void sensors. We are hidden, for now. For now, Nina agreed, checking her suit's power levels. But we've got bigger problems. That breach on the surface. The Shadeweavers will investigate. They'll find the station. Then we must prepare. Thexri's lights pulsed with determination. I will not let your people suffer for helping me. There is much about my technology I have not shared. Weapons that might work against the void crystal ships. As they began their ascent back to the station, Nana's mind was already formulating plans. They had bought themselves some time, but the real battle was just beginning. Somewhere above them, the Shadeweavers were closing in, their dark ships casting shadows over Europa's icy surface. The next few hours would determine not just their fate, but potentially the future of human-alien relations. The research station's lower levels had been transformed into an impromptu workshop. Pieces of human technology lay scattered across workbenches alongside crystalline components harvested from Thexri's ship. Dr. Patel's team worked alongside the alien, their movements becoming increasingly coordinated as they learned to interpret the subtle meanings in Thexri's light patterns. The principle is simple, Thexri explained. their crystalline form projecting complex diagrams into the air. Void crystal absorbs light, energy, information. But every absorption creates resonance pattern. Find correct counter-frequency, and we can disrupt their systems. Nina finished studying the holographic schematics. She picked up one of the station's defense modules, its casing already modified with crystalline interfaces, like using destructive interference to cancel out sound waves. Dr. Patel looked up from his calculations. The theory is sound, Commander, but our power systems were never designed for this kind of output. We'd need something to amplify the signal. Thexry's surface rippled with what Nina had learned to recognize as excitement. My ship's resonance core, still functional, even underwater, could interface with your technology, provide amplification. But the core is hundreds of meters below us, Nina pointed out, and the Shadeweavers are getting closer to finding that breach in the ice. The crystalline being's lights pulsed in a pattern that suggested deep thought. Not necessary to move core. Water conducts resonance, could extend crystal lattice from ship to station, create direct connection. The next hours were a blur of activity. While Thexry worked with the engineering team to grow crystal conduits through Europa's subsurface waters, Nina coordinated the station's defenses. The Shadeweavers had landed teams on the surface, their dark forms visible through the observation windows as they investigated the massive hole left by Thexry's ship. They're using some kind of scanning technology, Dr. Patel reported, watching the sensor feeds. The ice around the breach, its changing color, becoming darker. Void corruption. Thexry's lights flickered with concern. They convert matter to extend their scanning range. Soon they will detect station's energy signature. Nina watched as black veins began spreading through the ice surrounding the breach. How much longer until the crystal lattice is ready? Minutes only, Thexry assured her. But first activation will be unstable. Crystal resonance takes time to harmonize with new structures. A warning klaxon cut through the air. On the monitors, they watched as one of the Shadeweaver teams turned toward the ice ridge concealing the station. Their dark crystalline armor seemed to drink in the light around them, leaving trails of shadow in their wake. They found us, Nina announced grimly. Raj, begin evacuation procedures. Get all non-essential personnel to the deep shelters. She turned to Thexry. We're out of time. We have to try the interface now. The crystalline being's form pulsed with determination. Dangerous. Power surge could damage station systems. Could harm me. Nina met Thexry's faceted gaze. You risked everything to warn us about the Shadeweavers. Let us risk something to help you fight them. After a moment, Thexry's lights shifted in agreement. They moved to the main control panel, where crystal growths had emerged from the floor to entwine with the station's technology. The alien's form began to glow more intensely as they interfaced with the hybrid system. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Crystal structures sprouted from every surface, spreading through the station like frozen lightning. The normal lighting flickered and died, replaced by the pulsing blue radiance of Thexry's technology. Nina felt a strange resonance in her chest, as if the air itself was vibrating at a frequency just below human perception. Power levels are off the charts, Dr. Patel reported, his voice filled with wonder. The crystal lattice is amplifying our output by orders of magnitude. But these readings, it's putting immense strain on both our systems and Thexry. Nina could see the truth of his words. Thexry's form was vibrating, small fractures appearing in their crystalline surface as they struggled to maintain the connection. The alien's light patterns had become erratic, suggesting pain or difficulty. Shadeweavers breaching outer doors, someone called out. Security feeds showed the dark figures forcing their way through the station's defenses, their void crystal weapons leaving trails of absolute darkness. Weapons online, Nina commanded, her hand hovering over the activation controls. She looked at Thexry, seeing the strain in their flickering lights. Ready? The alien's response came not in words, but in a surge of power that made every crystal in the station blaze with brilliant light. Nina slammed her hand down on the controls, and the hybrid defense system roared to life. Energy pulses rippled through the crystal lattice, each one precisely tuned to the counter-frequency Thexri had calculated. The Shadeweaver's advance faltered as their void crystal armor began to resonate, dark surfaces cracking to reveal painful light within. But victory was far from assured. As the battle for Europa Station began in earnest, Nina couldn't help but wonder if their desperate gambit would be enough to stop an enemy that turned light itself into darkness. The station shuddered under the Shadeweaver's assault. Though their void crystal armor was compromised, they pressed forward with relentless determination. Each blast from their weapons left patches of absolute darkness that seemed to eat away at the station's crystal-enhanced defenses. Power fluctuations in sections 3 through 7. Dr. Patel called out, his fingers flying over multiple holographic displays. The crystal lattice is becoming unstable. Thexri can't maintain the resonance much longer. Nina could see the truth of his words. Thexri's crystalline form had developed a web of hairline fractures, their usually brilliant lights flickering erratically. The strain of interfacing with the hybrid defense system was literally tearing them apart. Thexri, you have to disconnect, Nina urged, reaching toward her alien friend. You're killing yourself. The crystalline being's response came in broken pulses of light. Must maintain connection. Shadeweavers will destroy all if they reach Earth. A massive explosion rocked the station. Security feeds showed a group of Shadeweavers had breached the main laboratory, their dark forms moving with terrible purpose. The void corruption spread from their footsteps, turning everything it touched into light-absorbing crystal. Nina made a split-second decision. Raj, initiate Protocol Omega. Get everyone to the emergency submarines. We're abandoning the station. Commander, Dr. Patel's eyes widened. But the research, the equipment, none of it matters if we're dead. Nina cut him off. But I have a plan. Thexri's ship is still powered up, connected to our systems through the crystal lattice. If we can overload both power grids simultaneously. Understanding dawned on Thexri's face, their lights pulsing with renewed energy. Crystal resonance cascade. Void crystal cannot absorb, if overwhelmed. But explosion will destroy station, destroy my ship. But it might take the Shadeweavers with it. Nina finished. She turned to Dr. Patel. Get everyone out. You have 5 minutes. The evacuation proceeded with practiced efficiency, even as more sections of the station fell to the advancing Shadeweavers. Nina stayed with Thexri, helping to reroute power and strengthen the crystal lattice for one final surge. You should go. Thexri's lights pulsed weakly. I can trigger overload alone. Nina shook her head, her hand steady as she worked. Not a chance. I didn't break first contact protocols just to abandon you now. We do this together. The station's corridors echoed with the sound of void crystal weapons and shattering crystal defenses. The Shadeweavers were getting closer. Through the observation windows, Nina could see their ships descending through Europa's thin atmosphere, moving to cut off any escape. All personnel evacuated. Dr. Patel's voice came through the comms. Submarines are away. Commander, it's been an honor. Nina allowed herself a small smile. The honor was mine. Raj, get our people to safety. She turned to Thexri. Ready? The crystalline being's form straightened, their lights steadying despite the fractures spreading across their surface. Together, they initiated the overload sequence as the laboratory doors began to crack under the Shadeweaver's assault. Energy surged through the crystal lattice, making every surface blaze with brilliant light. The hybrid system screamed as it was pushed far beyond its limits. Just as the doors burst open, revealing the dark forms of their enemies, Nina felt a crystalline hand grasp her arm. Thexri's voice echoed in her mind. Trust me. The world dissolved into pure light as the overload reached critical levels. Nina felt herself being pulled into something. A crystal matrix, she realized. Thexri was absorbing her into their own structure, protecting her the only way they could. The explosion, when it came, was unlike anything in human experience. Crystal resonance meant void corruption and a catastrophic release of energy. The station, the ice, and everything within a kilometer radius was simultaneously illuminated and annihilated. When Nina regained consciousness, she found herself floating in Europa's subsurface ocean, encased in a protective crystal shell that Thexri had somehow formed around her. Her friend's consciousness brushed against hers, weak but alive, their shared crystalline space keeping them both safe from the crushing pressures. Through the translucent shell, she could see the submarines returning, their lights piercing the dark water. Above, where the station had been, there was only a massive cavity in the ice, with no trace of the Shadeweavers or their ships. "Your people will find us soon." Thexri's thoughts merged with hers. "When I release you, I will need time to recover, to rebuild my form. But after, we'll have a lot of work to do," Nina finished. Establishing official contact between humanity and the Crystalline Confederation, setting up proper diplomatic channels, figuring out how to combine our technologies without blowing anything else up. She felt Thexri's amusement ripple through their shared consciousness. "You assume much about future cooperation. Well, you did just save my life by temporarily turning me into a crystal being. I'd say we're pretty committed to cultural exchange at this point." As the submarines drew closer, Nana reflected on how much had changed in just a few days. She had broken every first contact protocol in the book, fought off an invasion of light-eating aliens, and formed a friendship that transcended the boundaries of biology. But that, she realized, was how progress was often made, not through careful adherence to protocols, but through trust, sacrifice, and the willingness to reach across the void to help another being in need. As she and Thexri waited for rescue, their shared crystalline shelter glowing softly in the dark waters of Europa, Nana knew that this was just the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure.